Hello friends, my name is Paramjeet Singh and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to learn about virtual machines, how you can create a virtual machine, how to access it, and we'll also introduce what is virtual machine. So when we talk about Azure portal, you have three tools to create a virtual machine or create any services or access the portal. So first one is Azure portal, which is a graphical user interface. In this you use your mouse cursor to drag and drop the services options to create any services or create any virtual machine. The second one is Azure PowerShell, which is a command line interface from Microsoft, and the third one is Azure CLI, which is also known as Azure Bash. The commands in Azure CLI are similar to the commands in Linux. So what is the use of Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI? Why do we use it? So when you talk about creating a virtual machine, for example, you have an organization, and for that organization you require 100 virtual machines. But if you go with a graphical user interface, you start creating the virtual machines. You create one, you create second, the third one, fourth one. It is very easy to make any mistakes or to forget any steps, to skip any steps in graphical user interface. So what you do is you just go ahead and type a script in PowerShell or command line interface. You just run that script every time you need to create a virtual machine, or you create a copy of script. You create 100 copies of script and run it for in one time and create those virtual machines. So it is very easy to create or remove any services in Azure through PowerShell or CLI. You can also manage your services. You can make changes to any services using Azure PowerShell or CLI. So it is very easy, because when you talk about the live environment, you do not have time to go through all the graphical user steps to make any changes to n number of machines in one go. So PowerShell and CLI is the better option, but we are not going to cover it in this series. Now let's talk about virtual machine when it comes to laptop or a personal computer. So here is my laptop. I already have an operating system installed on it. I use a third-party software which can be a type 2 hypervisor. I discussed about the type 1 and type 2 hypervisor in my previous lectures, so you can go and check out my previous video. So when you talk about type 2 hypervisor, it is a software which is installed on the operating system of your computer, which helps you to virtually divide your CPU, RAM, hard drive, so that you can create multiple virtual machines on it. So you can see in the screen, I already have an operating system, and in that operating system I am running a virtual machine. Now let's come to servers. When we talk about servers, you have a server machine. You install a hypervisor software, which is type 1 hypervisor, because when we talk about live environment or production environment, you install a bare metal hypervisor type 1, and then it helps you to divide the physical server, the sources of physical server, into small chunks, and then you have option to install multiple operating systems like you see here. The CPU, RAM, disk and input output devices are divided, and you have one operating system and you have one application running on it. Then you have the second operating system, you have one application running on it. Then you have third operating system, which is running on your virtual hardware, virtual machine, and it's running another application. So this is how we go in a physical server. Now let's talk about the cloud computing. When it comes to cloud computing, you have very big data centers in different regions of globally. So if you talk about Azure, you have a lot of data centers wherein when you log into the portal, you have the data centers, you have hard drives, you have network racks, which are all installed in their region. It is not physically at your office. It is in like when you talk about Microsoft Azure, it is in Azure's region. You just request a virtual machine or any service on the portal, but those services or virtual machines are being created on that data center server racks. So it's using those network switches, those network racks. Everything is provided or managed by the cloud service provider. Now when we talk about virtual machine family, so we have different options of virtual machines. First one is general purpose, wherein the virtual machine that you are creating, it is going to be used for a general purpose application. Now when we talk about the GPU, it means the graphical processing unit should be high. So these virtual machines are mostly used in case of gaming applications. Now high performance virtual machines, in this I need to configure my virtual machine in a way where it is going to be performing very high, and then comes the memory optimized. So in this case, the virtual machine which I am going to create, I think that the application which I am going to deploy on that particular virtual machine, that particular application is taking a lot of memory, because when I program that when I do the coding of that particular application, when I design that application, I know that it is going to take a lot of memory. So what I do is I create a virtual machine with a higher memory and then deploy that particular application on this particular virtual machine which is higher in memory, so that it can run smoothly and do not give me any bugs. So next comes the compute optimized, wherein I know that the application which I am going to use or services that I am going to use on this particular virtual machine needs a high CPU count. Like I think the two virtual CPUs will not be enough for this particular application, and I need at least 8 virtual CPUs. So this is compute optimized. Now when we talk about storage, now the application or services which I am going to run on this particular virtual machine, I know that these services need a lot of storage. If I create any virtual machine with a low storage, it is going to it is going to be very inappropriate for that application, and it will not run smoothly. So I create a virtual machine, select the high storage, and I'm good to go. Now the next one is the steps by which we create a virtual machine. So we get multiple tabs on the Azure portal while creating a virtual machine. First one is basic, wherein I select the free trial, which is my subscription. I select the free trial, or I select pay as you go, depending on the subscription that you have. Then I select the resource group. I need to name the resource group, as well as I need to select the region of my resource group. And the third one is image. So I need to select the image. It can be CentOS, Microsoft Server, or Microsoft Windows 10, or Red Hat, or Ubuntu. So I have a lot of images options in the drop down on the Azure portal. I can select any one of them. Now when it comes to disk, I have 3 options: premium SSD, standard SSD, and standard HDD. So premium SSD is solid state drive, and then we have standard SSD, which is slower than premium SSD, and then we have standard HDD, which is slower than both of them. So next comes the networking, wherein you select the virtual network, subnet, static IP, and network security groups. Then fourth one is management, wherein you manage identity, auto shutdown, backup, and boot diagnostics. You can turn these options off and on depending on the configuration that you need on your virtual machine. Then you have guest configuration, then you have tags, and review and create. So once you come to the review and create tab, the Azure portal will automatically check if you have made any mistakes in the previous tabs, or you have missed something, or something needs to be changed. It will give you a red mark. You will have to go back and make those changes and then come to review and create. If you get a green tick, then you are good to go. You can create the virtual machine, log into it. Now let's go to the Azure portal and create a virtual machine. Okay, now here I am. So I told you in the previous lecture as well, if you want to go to the Azure portal, the URL is portal.azure.com. So here I am. I have my email ID already punched in. I click on it. It asks me for the password. I type in the password, click enter. And I am in. So I am logged into my Azure portal. Here I get the options where it says create a resource group, virtual machine, app services, storage accounts, SQL databases, subscription. If you want some more options, you can click on this option, create a resource. You have all the options listed here. But just in case you do not see the option that you are looking for, just start typing. If I type resource group, I see the resource group option. So as I told you in previous lectures, if you want to create any services, want to have a virtual machine or anything on the Azure portal, the first thing that you need to create is the resource group, because you are going to create all the services in that particular resource group. So I go to the resource group and let's create the first resource group. So this is create. I can click on create here. So it asks me for the subscription, so I have the free trial. I'll leave it as it is. The name of resource group, so I name it as RG01. Now I need to select the region. I keep it as it is, which is East US. I don't make any changes. I go to next tab, which is tags. I am not making any changes here as well. Now go to the next tab, which is review and create. Now see, it is giving me a green tick. It means there is nothing that I need to change in previous tabs. I can directly go ahead and create the resource group. I click on create. You see the notification center, it says resource group created. Now I can either go to this resource group directly from here. I click on go to resource group, or I go to the resource groups option, wherein I have all these resource groups listed. I click on RG01 and it is giving me the overview of this resource group, which is free trial, and the location is East US. Now when I go to create a virtual machine, I click here, I start typing virtual machine. Even if you do not type anything in this search box, the recent services you have used will be listed over here. So I can click on virtual machines. Now you click on add and you select virtual machine option. Okay, now here it says create a virtual machine. You get all these tabs. Now subscription, leave it as free trial. Resource group, so you have two options. Either you can select it from the drop down, like I have already created a virtual machine resource group. I can select it from the drop down. I click on RG01. The second option is you click on create new. Even if you didn't go to resource group option and you need to create one resource group, it's not that you are not getting an option here. You can directly create a new resource group and it will use the new one. So now when you create the virtual machine, it asks you for the virtual machine name. So I name it as virtual machine server. I leave the region as it is. When it comes to availability options, I am selecting no, because I do not want to create any availability set or availability zone. If you have not watched the video, you can see my previous video wherein I discussed the differences between availability set and availability zone. Now you need to select the image. So you see you have all the options here: Ubuntu, Red Hat, Oracle, CentOS, Windows Server, Windows 10 Pro for client machines. So for now I am selecting Windows Server 2012. Now it is giving me option to select the size of virtual machine, what number of CPUs I want, what should be the RAM. So I can go to this see all sizes. I can select any size here. From here I can highlight it and click on select, but for now I'll leave it as it is by default. Now it asking me to create a username, so I create a user123 randomly, and I give it a password, any password which matches the requirements of the password. And then it comes to the public inbound ports. If you select none, no one publicly will be able to log into this machine or access this virtual machine. But usually this is not the case, because if you are creating a virtual machine obviously on a cloud, then you are trying to access it publicly from some other machine. So you will leave it allow selected ports. So when it comes to the ports, if you want to access the machine from a browser, you will select HTTP, HTTPS. Then you have SSH option. Then you have RDP. RDP is remote desktop. So I'll create it using RDP 3389 port number. Now it asks me for the license, so I click check mark all these options. I go to disk. Now I'll leave it as it is, like premium SSD, because if I make any changes, like if I select standard SSD or standard hard disk drive, it is not going to make much difference, because it is going to be a little slower. But then when it comes to the pricing, it is not going to make any big difference, because this is just a demo video. I am going to run the virtual machine for 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes, so it is not going to affect any cost on my account. So I'll leave it as it is, premium SSD. Next comes the management. Next comes the networking, wherein it is creating a virtual network. It's automatically giving it a name depending on your resource group, which is RG01 VNet. Then it has a subnet. You see, it's a classless subnet. It's giving you a classless subnetting. You can even change the subnet. You can make changes depending on your requirement. So it's a class A IP 10.0.0.0, but you see it's giving you a subnet of 24. CDIR value is 24. Now leave NIC network security group as it is. Public inbound ports are already selected. Next we are going to the management. Here in management you can disable the boot diagnostics, because we are not going to run it on a live environment, so we do not need any boot diagnostics. It's going to take time to boot the server machine. So I disable it, go to advanced, leave it as it is, go to tags, you can leave it blank, review and create. Okay, now once you go to review and create tab, it gives you a green tick. It means there is nothing that you need to change in the options you have selected. You can directly go ahead and create the virtual machine. Here it gives you the option, here it gives you the price. It says 6.9163 Indian rupees per hour. So this is the price which it is going to charge you. It is giving you the summary of options you have selected in basic, disk, networking, and there is one more option. It says download a template for automation. So what you do is the options that you have selected while configuring this virtual machine, if you want to have n number of virtual machines with this particular configuration, you need not to go through all these steps every time. You directly click on this download a template for automation. It downloads a template for you. You just run that template. You also get options of templates in this Azure portal. You run this template, it will help you create the virtual machine directly. You don't have to go through all these steps every time to create same virtual machine. Now I click on create. Now once I click on create, it starts initializing the deployment and it gives you the logs in this notification center. So let's wait for it to complete the deployment and then we'll look into the virtual machine. Now friends, you see the deployment is complete. It says deployment virtual machine to resource group RG01 was successful. So I have option either to go from this go to resource button, or I can go to virtual machine and I'll get my virtual machine server listed here. I click on it. Okay, now it says resource group RG01, location East US. This is my public IP. And now when once I am on this virtual machine, I want to show you something that in this virtual machine there are a lot of things that is created automatically, like virtual network, NIC, network security groups. So once we go to resource group and click on RG01, Now you see all the resources which are created for this virtual machine are listed in this RG01 resource group. So this is how we can say that whenever you need any service, you need any virtual machine, please create a resource group. Then only you create those services under the this particular resource group that you have created, so that you can easily manage it and it is listed you under one resource group. Now let's go to virtual machine and try to access it. Okay, now I click on VM server. Okay, now I have two options to access this virtual machine. Either I can click on connect. I click on RDP because this is what I selected while configuring my machine. I download this RDP file. I click on this file which is downloaded, connect. Now it's asked you for a username and password. So this is the username which you gave while configuring the virtual machine. So it is user123, and the password you gave it. Yes. Okay, now you see friends, it's loading server 2012. This is my virtual machine. You can make it small, you can maximize it, you can minimize it, and this is my virtual machine. It's loading. Okay, so once the server is loading up, it's starting server manager, so you can manage the server. Now the second option, I am closing this virtual machine now. So how do you access the virtual machine in another way? So you just go ahead, go to virtual machine overview, and in this public IP you click on copy. You copy the public IP. Now you get two options. Either you click on start menu, start typing remote, and you get this remote desktop connection, or you can also use a shortcut. So it is MSTSC. You type in MSTSC, it gives you the same remote desktop connection. You click on it, copy paste the IP address which you copied from the Azure portal, paste it here, connect, and it asks you for the password. So I typed in the username earlier, so it's already taking the username. I type in the password, click OK, click yes. Okay, and I'm in my server. So this is how you can log into a server in another way. So let's close this server. Now you see the start button is grayed out because the server is already running, the virtual machine is running. So you have two options, to restart or stop the virtual machine. So what I do is I stop the virtual machine, because if the virtual machine is running, it's charging you money. So once you stop the virtual machine and it's idle, then Microsoft will not charge you anything. So what I do is I stop the virtual machine. Now I have two options here. Either I go to resource group and go to RG01, and go to each one of these options and delete it one by one. Another option is I delete the resource group completely. So once I click on delete resource group, it gives me option to type the name of the resource group. So I'll have to type RG01. Okay, so once I type the correct name, it gives me the delete option. If I type the name incorrectly or I do not type the name, you see the delete button is grayed out. So you need to type the complete resource group name correctly, RG01, click on delete. It's showing you it's deleting now. So once you go to this notification center, you see, so the virtual machine has stopped successfully. Now it's deleting the resource group RG01. So let's wait for it. Alright friends, so you can see here it says deleted resource group RG01. So now if I go to resource groups. I don't have RG01 listed here because it's deleted. So I suggest you to delete the resource group once you have done the lab, because it will not incur you any cost. If you have made it so far, please do not forget to hit the like button. Please do subscribe and also share the videos with your friends so that they can also take the benefit of it. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much.